The show starts on a secluded Korean island. Nok-du is a fisherman living with his father and older brother. He learns martial arts from the village drunkard master and is promised to marry his daughter when he grows up. One afternoon, Nok-du and the girl are fishing when a man informs him that his family is in trouble. He rushes back home to see a group of soldiers surrounding his father Yoon and brother Hwang. A battle follows and Nok-du manages to defeat them all, having learned martial arts his entire life. One of the soldiers is a woman who Nok-du refuses to kill. He hurts her leg and allows her to flee. When everything calms down, Nok-du's father tells him they have to leave the island now that they have been found. From a very young age, he was overly protective of his sons, as if someone was looking for them. He claims that he did something in the past which affected many vengeful high profiles. Hence, he faked his death and was on the run for decades. But today's attack means that someone has found their whereabouts. The drunkard master reveals that the soldiers were trained assassins, which means they were sent by someone to kill the family. He wants Nok-du to go to the Emperor's city and find out who is the person behind the attack. Yoon doesn't want his son to get into trouble, but Nok-du has decided to get to the bottom of the situation, no matter what. In the next scene, we are taken to the Emperor's city. The king is making a round of the city in a palanquin, surrounded by his guards. A woman named Dong-ju is dressed up as a man and is looking to kill the king to avenge something that happened to her family. She gets ready with her bow and arrow, but is interrupted by a running Nok-du. They bicker for a minute, which causes her to miss the palanquin. Suddenly, an old man throws a stone at the king, slandering him for killing his son to expand his palace. The guards are instantly altered and asked to check the entire area for the old man's accomplice. In the following brawl, both Nok-du and Dong-ju are caught. Right before he is taken away, Nok-du sees the woman who he injured back on his island. He wants to use her to get to her boss, but the guards arrest him before he can. Assuming that Dong-ju is a man, she is kept with the male prisoners, where she meets Nok-du again. They bicker and blame each other for their situation. The following morning, they wake up close to each other and jolt up in embarrassment. The guards take them to the investigation bureau, and Dong-ju is asked to introduce herself. She goes blank, knowing that any lie will get her in trouble, since she is disguised as a man. When the investigation officer gets mad at her for not speaking, Nok-du comes to her aid and distracts everyone. He claims that the investigation is fruitless, and the king must instead go to the grave of the old man's son to gain sympathy from his people. His suggestion is taken into consideration, and they are ultimately let free. After that, Nok-du and Dong-ju go their separate ways. Nok-du ends up at a local inn at night. The kind inn owner offers him food, free of charge, out of the goodness of her heart. What Nok-du doesn't know is that it has been poisoned by the female assassin. An hour after eating the food, he feels nauseous and runs outside. The inn owner runs to call the assassin, but by then, Nok-du has already fled. The woman assumes he is dead and returns home to meet her boss. Nok-du follows her, having thrown the food instead of eating it. He sees her entering a hidden village and goes in after her. However, Nok-du soon regrets the decision because the village belongs to widowed women and men are strictly prohibited to enter. The female guards beat him up before throwing him out. Later that day, Nok-du sees a woman being chased by a group of men. He helps her escape and finds out she is being pursued by her family for falling in love with a man of a lower castle. The lovers want to escape, but the men who want her dead are still outside the widow's village, waiting for her to arrive. To help them, Nok-du dresses up as a woman and tricks the men. They eventually assume that their daughter has left and quit pursuing her. Nok-du acts so well as a woman that even the couple is shocked. They thank him greatly before leaving for a safer village. The next morning, Nok-du goes to the widow's village, dressed as a woman. They welcome him after he makes up a story about his husband's death. There are two parts of the village, the common grounds and the Kasang house, where unmarried women stay. Since there are no rooms vacant in the village, Nok-du is asked to share a room in the Kasang house. The women there survive by making alcohol and clothes for the palace. They promise to teach Nok-du a skill and help him sustain a good life. As he is being shown around, a nobleman tries to kidnap a little girl to make her his wife. A woman stands against him, refusing to let the child be exploited. Nok-du looks closer at the girl and realizes it is Dong-ju. He sees that she is a woman and figures out that she was dressed as a man when they first met. To make the nobleman go away, Dong-ju cuts her hair, which is said to be a Kisang's sacred jewel. When he still remains adamant, the king's nephew and Dong-ju's friend, Myung Yang, comes to her rescue. He embarrasses the man and kicks him out of the village. As the crowd disperses, Nok-du meets the manager of the Kisang house, Mr. Lee. He instantly falls for his beauty. Nok-du is sent to the room that he is supposed to share with Dong-ju. He goes through her belongings and makes sure she is the person he met in the village yesterday. She finds him snooping through her bag and pushes him away. They get into a fight again before Dong-ju asks him to stay away from her belongings and kicks him out. Later, the manager meets Nok-du and takes him by surprise by expressing his love. Nok-du doesn't know what to make of the unwanted attention and resorts to staying away from the man. While looking for the assassin, he figures out that the village's brewery is where most women aren't allowed to go. Before he checks what's inside, 3 women forcefully make him come to the river to bathe with them. Nok-du doesn't want to seem suspicious, nor does he want to pass on this sweet opportunity. But if he takes off his clothes, his secret will be out. He refuses as much as he can before jumping into the water with his clothes on. Suddenly, the women look at him in shock and throw a stone in his direction. Nok-du freezes in shock before realizing that they are looking at a man behind him. The Kisang manager is caught red-handed spying on them. They knock him out, deciding to never talk about this again. In the following scene, we are introduced to the king's most beloved friend and subject, Hyo Yoon. Long ago, Nok-du's father used to be good friends with the king and Yoon, but at the end of the war, Yoon asked Nok-du's father to run away with Nok-du so they wouldn't have to get killed by his hands. The reason he wanted to kill them all is still a mystery, but it is clear that Nok-du's father has been running away from the king all this time. Another flashback shows us that a few months earlier, Nok-du's father bumped into a man who recognized him. He managed to escape then, but the king was informed and the soldiers were sent to look for him around the islands. Back in the present, the king asks a commander if he was able to find Nok-du, but the man lies and claims that they didn't find anyone. Somewhere else, Yoon is told about Nok-du coming to the city in search of the woman who attacked him. He tightens the security around the widow village, hoping to catch Nok-du before he is found by the king. Meanwhile, in the village, Nok-du and Dong-ju have a sleep together in a room. Dong-ju doesn't mind it, assuming that Nok-du is a woman, but Nok-du is nervous the entire time. When everyone is asleep at night, he goes out and finds a group of women dressed as the assassins he fought on the island. It is revealed that their group kills misogynists and predators who harm other women. However, their leader is someone only the older women recognize. To get to the leader, Nok-du follows the said women, but he is caught. After a fierce sword fight, he manages to run back to the Kisang house and pretends to be taking a stroll. The following day, Nok-du goes into the brewery to try to socialize, but he ends up getting into a fist fight with a woman after unintentionally calling her ugly. Amidst the fight, Nok-du sits on a hot pan and burns his back, while Dong-ju burns her hand. They help each other by applying medicine before going to sleep. That night, the king comes to meet Yoon and inquires if he saw Nok-du and his father dying with his own eyes. Yoon affirms, even though he knows that he let them run away out of mercy. The king has his suspicions regarding the story, but he decides to let it go for the night. After he falls asleep, Yoon asks his best man to continue looking for Nok-du. The next morning, Nok-du bumps into the assassin who he fought on the island. She finds him familiar and follows him, but Nok-du manages to fool her by pretending to be the Kisang manager's escort. Still, he has to be careful, because the assassin is keeping a close eye on him. For the rest of the day, Nok-du helps Dong-ju with different things because of her injury. They eventually become friends, and Dong-ju even suggests that she call him sister. Get wrecked. Nok-du, on the other hand, refuses to be called that, and asks her to stick to calling each other by their names. When it turns dark, an eerie noise is heard, prompting all the women to run into their houses. Nok-du is told that the elders are performing a ritual for the dead widows, and no one should be out of their houses at this time. He sees through the ruse, because the women performing the ritual are the elder assassins. He follows them and sees a group of men entering a temple where men are forbidden. They're the leaders who run the entire widow assassin organization. Before Nok-du can get a look at their faces, he trips, alerting the soldiers to his presence. He runs back to the Kasang house and enters a random room. To his surprise, Dong-ju turns out to be in the same room. Back at the temple, we see that Yoon and his council are the leaders of the organization. The king is looking to kill a kid, who is the only person in the line of the throne after him. Yoon and his council are secretly planning to dethrone the king, because he has gone insane for the throne. But they have to be extremely careful about not letting any outsiders know. Back in the Kasang house, Nok-du pretends to cut Dong-ju's hair when the assassins come looking for the intruder. But then, she feels his chin and finds stubble that proves he is a man. Nok-du blackmails her since he knows about her cross-dressing to go to the city. To his luck, this keeps her from outing him to the assassins. After everything calms down, Nok-du lies that he ran away with his mistress, but they were separated by her family. The couple has many people looking to kill them for simply falling in love. Hence, he is hiding in the village until his lover arrives looking for him. Dong-ju believes the story, but keeps a close eye on him to ensure he's not a pervert. In the morning, the women are provided with a sketch of Nok-du and ask to catch him if they see him around. Nok-du thinks of a plan and gathers all of them a while later. He lies that he met the pervert and attacked him, giving him a scar on his face. He also changes the picture so it would look different from the original. The women buy the story and start looking for the man with a scar. Later that day, Dong-ju's friend, Myung Yang, brings her a bunch of candies from the palace. Dong-ju in turn gives them to Nok-du because it is his birthday. Meanwhile, in the palace, the queen is mourning her newborn son, who died at the time of war. Today was the day he was born, hence the day brings back memories for her. Moreover, she is eating the same candies as Nok-du in her son's memory. The nobleman who couldn't have his way with the little girl returns to the widow's village. This time, his eyes are on Dong-ju. According to the rule, the Kasang will have to hand her over to the man if he wishes to take her home. But even so, when the head Kasang is told about his intentions, she declines, trying to save Dong-ju from a monster like him. The nobleman makes a scene, threatening to sell the entire village. As a result, Dong-ju agrees to go with him. In the meantime, Nok-du is hiding inside a cupboard to spy on the assassins who are planning a way to kill their new target. A woman opens the cupboard mid-conversation and catches Nok-du red-handed. He quickly recovers by saying that he came to steal a ring to make more money. The women get ready to kill him, but then he offers to join their group. They hear his case and decide to give him a chance, but only if he manages to kill the man in the next 2 days. In the last scene, Dong-ju is being taken away in a palanquin, while Nok-du is on his way to kill the target.